Hello and welcome to Georgia Bulldogs Live. This is our instant reaction from the SEC Championship. 28-7, Georgia Bulldogs beat the Alabama Crimson Tide. I'm Matt Green, my co-host over there, Bo Underwood. Bo, how about them dogs?
How about him, man? I mean, what a performance, man. To 28-7, just pretty much a complete domination from start to finish for this Georgia team, avenging their one regular season loss, back-to-back SEC titles now. This is as good of a game as I think I've ever seen Georgia play. So what a win for this team, man.
Yeah, man, it was a lot of fun. This game was nerve-wracking only because they just couldn't stop putting up the stats on the screen, right? Like why am I blanking on his name? Cole Spear. Shout out to Cole Spear with the block punt. As soon as it happened, I was like, I swear, every single big game Georgia's ever blocked a kick, blocked a punt, like we've won that game. And then they put up the stat: Georgia 17-0, now 18-0 under Kirby Smart in games where they block a kick or a punt. That was just massive. Just set the tone early. And then Dalen Everett, his third of his 5 career interceptions in the SEC championship games. Like Dalen Everett, just big time players make big time plays. And I don't know if you've seen the replay on that. You were at the game, so I'm gonna let you talk about that for sure. But KJ Bolden gets a hand on it, and it's just amazing that he's able to like make the adjustment to catch that and just keep running. But yeah, just really athletic play. Also an offensive face mask. Like on the same, Win Bernard's also grabbing his face mask. Like they don't ever call offensive face mask. We call him that now.
That was a crazy play, man. I think the fact that Georgia was able to consistently cash in on those opportunities, they scored off of that interception, they scored off of the block field goal, turning those plays into 7 points every single time is championship level football. And I was super impressed by the way that Georgia was able to consistently do that, because you can get all the turnovers you want, but if you're not actually turning them into points, they can't be that consequential, So the fact that Georgia was just, they got that's a tough Alabama team, and the total yardage difference in yardage gap in this game wasn't that different. I think Georgia had like 270 yards of offense. Alabama was at like 220. It's probably more than that.
Yeah, I'll put the stats right here.
Yeah. Okay, there you
on
go.
The screen. Yeah, 297 to 209.
I mean, it's for a game that ended 28-7. And I know yardage is just one stat, but the difference ended up being the turnover margin and how efficient Georgia was in the red zone. And when you can cash in on those opportunities, it's just huge, man. That's what championship level teams do.
For what it's worth, it was 252 to 103 going into the fourth quarter. So 103 yards going in the fourth quarter. And also that 103 yards, I had to update my sheet while I was following on to the game, because they just put the graphic before that tight end had like a 22-yard reception. So with about 5-10 seconds left in the third quarter, they had 83 yards of offense. It was just domination. I can't say it. -3 rushing yards. -3 rushing yards in the SEC championship is an absolutely wild stat. This is the kind of game, I mean, Georgia probably outgained Alabama by about 100, 110 yards, I think, in the first game. So this isn't even that different. Like, obviously, 210 to 110 is very different than someone having negative yards rushing. But in terms of, Georgia only had 141 yards on the ground. It's not like they ran all over Alabama. Like the discrepancy is, the margin is at least similar, but this is how you would assume a game with that big of a margin on the rushing battle would go, and a team dominates the time of possession 36, almost 37 minutes to 23 minutes. Like, that's what was so weird about this first matchup, was how Georgia dominated on the ground, but Alabama dominated the time of possession.
Right. And I think it was definitely reasonable to not expect, 200 plus rushing yards from Georgia again with the injury to Drew Bobo. I mean, that's a huge deal, and it's going to continue to be a huge deal. But the fact that Georgia was able to consistently cash in on those opportunities, they scored off of that interception, they scored off of the block field goal, turning those plays into 7 points every single time is just I think I thought that going into the game, as long as the run game was just able to keep the offense on schedule and mitigate long third down situations and keep things within a reasonable range on third downs, that they were going to be in pretty good shape. And that's all that you can really ask for when you have a backup center. And, Bowens is still banged up, and Frazier got banged up earlier in that game too. He had the stinger where he came out on. So the running game did enough, man. It did its job. It wasn't pretty, it wasn't flashy. There weren't many explosive runs for this team or anything, but I think given the circumstances and the injury that they were dealing with, the run game did its job, especially when you compare it to Alabama on the other end, just not being able to do anything and having to be completely one dimensional.
Yeah, absolutely. It was man, what a performance this was, just all around. Like, it was, I feel like that first defensive possession, where Ellis is the first possession where Ellis Robinson comes up and hits and levels the dude on third down. It's like that just kind of set the tone. Like, when your corners are coming up, stepping up and playing physical, it's just like, okay, this is looking like Georgia football. This is some junkyard dog stuff right now. And I didn't highlight it as one of the stats here because it wasn't that big of a discrepancy in terms of the actual game. But the fact that we've talked so much about 13 of 19 on third down in the first matchup, 3 of 14 on third down was just real domination, honestly, on Georgia's part. And I want to say it was like, I mean, 2 of those probably came in the fourth quarter, right? Like, they were, it was 1 of something for a while in this game, I believe.
Yeah, 3 of 14 on third down, and then 1 of 3 on fourth down. So 4 of 17 on money downs overall. Obviously, like 13 of 19, I guess was never going to be all that sustainable, because that's just a crazy combination of efficiency and volume in the third down department. And no matter how good you are, like that's just never going to be all that sustainable. But for Georgia to hold them to 3 of 14, for there to be that much of a drastic difference between the first game and the last game, I mean, we heard all week, the conversation has been Smart talking about how much the defense has grown and matured throughout the year and really settled in and really found its footing. And we've seen proof of that before, the fourth quarter against Ole Miss, the Georgia Tech game, the Mississippi State game, the Texas game. Like, they've had those kinds of performances. But to then do that against big bad Alabama, the team that beat you earlier in the regular season and frankly kind of humiliated you on third downs, to have that kind of retribution, I guess, or something, or whatever, is huge deal. And I think it really just, that's the ultimate just picture of how much Georgia's defense has grown throughout the year. Like, that's the ultimate proof of concept.
Yeah, and I think this is something we've kind of referenced all year. Like, we've talked about Georgia's pass rush a lot this year, so we can give them their flowers tonight, because this pass rush was just all over Ty Simpson the entire night. Just, I don't know how many they were bringing. They were bringing 6, 7. It seemed like they were bringing 12 guys at some points. Like, they were just in the backfield immediately. Zayden Walker made a sack in this one, just making some plays. I don't know. Everyone was making plays. Like, this defense, Quintavious Johnson looked good in this one. Like, it just looked like vintage Georgia defense. And this is like what we've talked about all year, of like the fact that Georgia has an offense that's this good. Yeah, maybe their defense isn't great right now, but are you really going to bank on Georgia playing poor defense for an entire season? Like, it's a Kirby Smart coach team. And as this season's gone on, this defense has gotten better and better. And this was definitely the most dominant performance I think they've had all season.
Yeah, I think so too. I think easily it is. I mean, negative rushing yards and just being able to shut down everything on third down against a team that you had lost to earlier in the year, largely in part because of how good they were on third down. Like, that is just such a huge deal, man. I mean, yeah, pretty much everybody. The pass rush was super disruptive. Simpson never really had a chance to get comfortable. He was fighting for his life almost every time he dropped back. And Georgia was also able to, I mean, by the time they got up by 2 possessions, and by the time it became clear that Alabama wasn't going to be able to establish the run, Alabama was facing a true drop back situation on almost most of their plays in general. And that really allowed Georgia to just pin their ears back and go for broke in the pass rush department. And they really reaped the rewards of that, man. This pass rush has really come on lately to an extent that I didn't think it would. I thought that they would improve a little bit throughout the year just because they were, really struggling in the early part of the year. But for it to round into the form that it has lately is just, I think, one of the bigger mid-season developments that I've seen from a Georgia team.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's impressive. Like, this team has gotten so much better as the season's gone on. And, I think I was convincing myself before this game, like, we've seen Gunnar Stockton and this Georgia offense play well a lot of games. Maybe that Georgia Tech game, that's just an outlier. Like, we've seen more good than bad from this offense. And we saw the good tonight. Like, it's not like they just tore it up or anything, but I mean, for what they did in the first half, like, clearly they approached the second half differently. And I think a really underrated play in this game, and Kirk Herbstreit and Fowler were kind of criticizing it on the broadcast, is right before the half when Georgia goes for it on that fourth down and picks it up near midfield. I feel like that's a massively underrated play in this game, because they were like criticizing Kirby of like, oh, you get that fourth down, like Georgia's going to be aggressive. Why did they just sit on it after that? And kind of questionable decision. And I think the fact that they just converted the first down, and just, instead of punting the ball and Bama gets it inside their 20 with a minute left, they had 15 seconds left and they ran one play and then essentially need the ball and went into halftime. Like, the fact that you didn't get, knowing Alabama was going to get the ball to start the third quarter, you just didn't give them that possession. Like, it might feel like a high risk, low reward, but I think the reward was just assuring that Alabama wasn't going to be able to do anything before the half.
Yeah, definitely. I thought that maybe they could have been a little bit more aggressive towards the end of the half, especially because last week against Georgia Tech, they did pretty much they did something very similar. They're also very conservative in their approach. But yeah, I agree. I think that the effort to deny Alabama the opportunity for a 2-for-1 there, if I'm going to use a basketball analogy, is a huge deal. Like, they seemed very intent on just slamming the door on any potential avenues for Alabama to make a comeback. And it was just a suffocating defensive performance, man. It really was. Like, I really can't get over the -3 rushing yards, 3 of 14 on third down. I mean, those are just two just huge numbers for me, man. They weren't allowing Alabama back into the game at all. They went up 21-0, and I guess like not all 21-0 leads are created equal, but when you can make an offense look that anemic and that one dimensional, this is the result.
Yeah, and they didn't have that. It's not like they had like a bunch of sacks. Like, they had 3. Obviously, they were all over Ty Simpson getting good pressure the whole night, but it's not like it's just sack yardage that made it look like -3, and it really wasn't that bad. Like, Daniel Hill, 4 carries for 11 yards. AK Deer, 3 carries, 10 yards. Is that that guy's name? I didn't hear that guy's name mentioned. I've never heard the name AK Deer. But Ryan Williams, 1 carry, 5 yards. Lazier Brooks, 1 carry, 0 yards. Then Ty Simpson, 6 for -28. Longest rush in this game was 5. Nate Frazier, Gunnar Stockton had a rush of 8. Dylan Bell had a rush of 12. Frazier had one of 14. Bowens had a 19-yard gain. Bama's longest run for the whole game was 5 yards. Their average yards per carry was -0.2. So they averaged losing 0.2 of a yard on every run play. This was just, man, I know we've admitted that the Kirby Smart Georgia thing is obviously a narrative we can't run from. Like, Alabama's dominated Kirby Smart, but he's now 2-7 against Alabama. But to win one 28-7, that goes a long way. And like, because in my heart of hearts, it was one of those things that like I'm not going to die on the hill defending Kirby's record against Alabama. Basically, it's like, what can you say? They've dominated us. But in my heart of hearts, and I think most Georgia fans, you just know for a fact the Kirby's mentality and the mentality this program has, like, they're not scared of anybody. There was never a time where Georgia was actually afraid of Bama. For whatever reason, Alabama just seemed to come out and play their best, sharpest game of the season against Georgia. And this was just such a dominant performance. Now he's 2-3 in the last 5, if we want to start to cherry pick. But I think this goes a long way in just kind of ending a narrative when you win in this sort of dominant fashion.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm sure that it'll probably never go away. It'll probably always be a thing that people say. But Kirby Smart is truly an all-time great in this sport. He really is just one of the greatest to ever do it. And somebody who is that good and that just going to go down as a college football legend, it's reasonable to expect them to not have this outlying crazy weakness. Like I don't think Kirby Smart was just never going to beat Alabama ever again. Like as much as it clearly was, like, you could say, oh, they won. Now he's 2-7 against Alabama. But I agree. I just don't think that that's something that this Georgia team really plays with in their minds. I think that they understand that every single game is different and every situation is different, and you can't go into a game just thinking about the history of it. So, yeah, had Alabama won this game, would the narrative have persisted perhaps more strongly than ever before? Probably. But I think that this utter domination, from wire to wire like this does do a lot to quell the notion that, like, oh, Georgia just can't beat Alabama. It's like, no, man, like I said earlier, like I think this is as good of a game as I've ever seen this team play, even when you take out the fact that it's Alabama. This is a playoff caliber opponent in the SEC championship with your second straight SEC title on the line, and to come out there and just leave no doubt the way that they did, I don't think that you can say enough about what that says about this team and just the way that these guys are wired.
Yeah, I think that's a good call. I think this obviously we're Georgia fans and we want to focus on the one that just happened and not the previous 1-7 record Kirby had coming into this one. But yeah, I mean, this goes a long way for sure. Like Kalen DeBoer was 2-0, like that it was like, okay, this is starting to get out of hand. Like we even said back in September, it's like, I don't know, put my hands up. Like I can't really say anything. Maybe we are, but so after one game, we go ahead and go and completely change our opinion. But yeah, I think this is big time, and just the defensive performance. So looking at Alabama's like season long numbers versus Power 5, the fewest rushing yards they've had in a game, and this is a team now at this -3 yard performance. They're averaging 93 yards a game on the ground. I don't know where that puts. I mean, that's got to be, if someone were to average 93 a game on the season, like that's got to be bottom 10 in all of college football, right? Averaging under 100 yards at rushing a game. There can't be many teams that are averaging under 100. Like I wouldn't think. But the previous low on the season when they had 56 yards rushing versus LSU, and now -3 in this one. Also, Alabama was +6 in the turnover margin in Power 4 in games versus Power 4 competition this year, and Georgia was -1. So for Georgia to win the turnover battle, and they're +1. I don't know why block punts block kicks don't count as turnovers because that's a turnover. You know what I mean? So essentially 2 turnovers, and Georgia scored off both of them. Like, they just haven't had a lot of these games versus Alabama where they make those momentum plays and then just never really let go of it.
Yeah. I mean, it really is just the ultimate example of maximizing the opportunities, because this is a very good Alabama team that has beaten them already once this season. And when you get those guys to slip up, you better take advantage of it. You better maximize that opportunity and turn it into a touchdown. And they did that twice. And that really made all the difference. You know, we were talking about earlier this week is they need to avoid a slow start. They need to avoid falling down by 2 possessions early, or 4 possessions early if you're talking about last year. And not only did they do that, but they got up really early and just never let up from there. I mean, there was just a complete domination. Alabama had no way to run the ball. They got great pressure on Simpson constantly throughout the game. And Simpson, you know, I caught some flack earlier this week for talking about Simpson and you know, pointing out that he had a rough stretch of the season for the last month or so. And I think a lot of the same issues that he's had kind of persisted in this game, where Georgia got pressure on him, and I think he kind of made pressure a little bit harder on himself than he needed to. Obviously, pressure affects every quarterback. There's no quarterback that's going to be good when they're being pressured, because being pressured sucks. But, you know, there was a lot of drifting and doubling back in the pocket and happy feet. And that just kind of compounded through the game once it became clear that Georgia was just going to have this relentless pass rush. And once that is established and you're down by 2 scores and you can't run the ball, it's just really, really hard to overcome against a really good defense, especially when the secondary for Georgia was playing as well as it did.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm with you there, man. I think there's not there. I don't know what else to say, Ardley, when it comes to how good this defensive performance was, because I will give you credit. You were disrespecting Ty Simpson. You were not impressed by his play this year. I still do think Ty Simpson is a good quarterback. I think Ty Simpson ran into an absolute juggernaut defensively tonight in the Georgia Bulldogs. They look like some junkyard dogs tonight, sir. Like, Georgia's best performance on the season defensively, 23 yards they allowed on the ground to Texas, 45 they were allowed to Kentucky, 69 to Georgia Tech on the ground, -3. I can't get past the -3, sir. It's an insane stat. I saw some other good stats. Let me see if I can pull these up here. Go ahead.
Oh yeah, that one and the third down, I think are the 2 things that I can't get over, because Alabama has struggled to run the ball throughout this season, so I think it was reasonable to expect them to kind of struggle against this Georgia defense running the ball, because, you know, Georgia has like the 6th ranked rush defense in the country or something entering this game.
Yeah.
But for them to just shut it down to the extent that they did, a negative rushing total, and also same thing with third downs. It's like, yeah, they're probably not going to go 13 of 19 again. They'll probably have a more normal line on third downs, but 3 of 14 and then 1 of 3 on fourth downs, including, you know, they stopped Alabama on fourth down at Alabama's own 10, 11 yard line.
What a wild call.
Yeah, and then immediately cash that one in too. So you've got the blocked punt, you've got the Everett interception, and you've got that stop, and they turn all of those into touchdowns. And I don't think you can give them enough credit for being able to go 3 for 3 in those situations scoring. That's really big time stuff, man.
Yeah, that's that defense essentially did directly impact those three touchdowns. Also, T-Bone watching live. I appreciate you watching live, sir. How about them dogs?
How about it?
And then Kirby's post-game speech also. A shout out to Kirby. Just showing love to the band, and whatever his line was about, like, these fans have gone through some agony, some rough times, but not tonight.
Yeah,
Tonight's a whole lot of fun. But yeah, you were in the building, sir. What were the vibes in the building?
it was pretty cool, man. It was awesome. I mean, we were. I was sitting in a pretty even split section of Alabama and Georgia fans, and yeah, credit to Alabama fans. They were not being overly boisterous or loud or annoying. They were pretty good, but the
I
second
bet they weren't being very loud today.
yeah, I mean the second that Georgia got that last fourth down stop in the red zone, Alabama fans were heading for the exits, and then from then on, it was pretty much a whole lot of Georgia fans just having a lot of fun in the stands. UGA chants were breaking out. It's great to be a Georgia Bulldog chants breaking out. It was a very, very cathartic win for this team. I mean, anytime you beat Alabama, we've got the record on here right on the screen. I mean, there have been some tough times against this program, and for Georgia to not only beat them, but to just completely dominate the game the way that they did. I mean, that's a Georgia fan's dream right there.
Yeah, and just dominating, playing the exact style that Georgia wants to play is also just so satisfying. Like you had, Nate Frazier, 13 for 52, Stockton, 13 for 39. A lot of design runs for Stockton. This one, Dylan Bell, 4 for 24. Dylan Bell was just getting fed in this offense, honestly. 4 for 45 through the air and 4 for 24 on the ground. Zachariah Branch with his a screen pass he took for a touchdown. The real, cherry on top, whatever you want to call it, like final nail in the coffin. But yeah, the fact this team got into the red zone and every single time came away with a touchdown, that was so massive. But yeah, just very satisfying the way the win happened. So Georgia led this game by multiple scores for 38 minutes.
Wow.
And Georgia now has won their most recent game with every single team in the SEC. Man. And so that's pretty cool. And so these are the SEC championships since 2017, sir. No reason in particular we stopped at 2017. But as you can see there, sir, Georgia's won 4 SEC championships since 2017, same number as the Alabama Crimson Tide. Only LSU has won in that time period. So Kirby is now 4-4 in SEC championship games. Got that 500 record. Georgia is now Kirby Smart is now 4-0 in rematches, outscoring opponents 111-51 in those 4 games.
Yeah, that is crazy. I think that's such a big testament to Kirby Smart's coaching ability to be 4-0. I mean, and not only is he 4-0, but I think 3 of those wins are against teams that they had lost to previously. I think the only time they beat someone in a rematch that they had already beaten was Texas last year.
Yes, that is correct.
That's I mean. Yeah, to have that bounce back ability or whatnot, I think is a pretty big deal, and says a lot about the makeup of this team and the way that they game plan, the way that they can self scout and learn from their own mistakes, identify what they did wrong, and correct it. That's all of that I think is can be attributed to coaching. And hot take here, but Kirby Smart is one of the best coaches in the country, and stuff like that is just proof of why.
Yeah, you're definitely right, man. I think there's definitely something to that. Like the fact that Georgia shut this team out in the second half, in the first game in Athens, and then almost shut them out in this game. Be honest, anyone who's out there, you were doing it too. Looking up the last time Alabama got shut out. I was looking up the stat. I was trying to have that stat. Yeah. They ended up getting 7 points, but
Bernard made a great play there, man. That was a
sick play
by Bernard to score there.
And I didn't see. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh yeah, it's just Jeremy Bernard is just a stud. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, that was a big time play for sure. But I didn't see the original penalty that DeMello Jones got on the first on that off that sack. I think he like hit someone in the face or something, but I didn't actually see it. And then he gets the pass interference. So DeMello Jones with the two 15-yard penalties on that one touchdown drive, like we kind of gave them the one touchdown drive they did have. So yeah, this was just domination. I mean, there haven't been many SEC championships that have been this level of domination. Like you got to go back to Georgia Auburn. The only other 28-7 in there, but Georgia LSU. Yes, Georgia's got three of the more lopsided victories in SEC in the last decade, but LSU over Georgia was a pretty big one.
Yeah, I guess both Georgia LSU games have been pretty much blowouts, because even when Georgia beat LSU that game, a lot of LSU's points were when Garrett Nussmeier came in and the game was already kind of lost. But yeah,
that's interesting.
I mean, the SEC is the toughest conference in all of college football. It's just so hard to win. It's even harder now that there's 16 teams and no divisions. And so for Georgia to emerge with 2 conference titles in a row in this hyper-competitive era of more parity than we've ever seen before is no small feat, man. I don't think that you can take that for granted. And there's just you can't make a big enough deal out of that, I think.
Yeah, I mean, it is definitely winning 3 of the last 4. That's a big deal. Like, and that's not even including a national championship team there in 2021 when you just go back the last 5 years. Like, just unbelievable consistency from this Georgia program. I think they're the first team to play in 5 straight SEC championships since like Spurrier or something in the 90s. But yeah, I mean, it's insane what this program has become. Yeah, it's interesting to say that because I guess every Georgia LSU SEC championship has been a blowout. If you go back to 05, or no, you go back to 03, there's been 5 of them. 03, LSU blew out Georgia. 05, Georgia blew out LSU. 2011, LSU blew out Georgia.
That's funny.
2019, so LSU Georgia isn't a good SEC championship matchup.
Clearly, it's not.
But
yeah, they had before the game, they had a bunch of they had like SEC legends that were being honored before the game, and every SEC school had a representative. And LSU's was Tyrann Mathieu, and I was like, "Uh-oh, is this a bad omen for Georgia that Tyrann Mathieu's in the building for the SEC championship?" But clearly, it was not.
I guess it's a different building, so yeah, I guess it doesn't count.
There you go.
But yeah, I mean, that was such a frustrating one too, because it was like Georgia could have been up like 21-0. Instead, it was like 10-0. And then Tyrann Mathieu takes that punt to the house, and it's like, we're about to get blasted, aren't we? But yeah, it was we're not talking about 2011 right now. We're talking about 2025, and 2025 is a lot more fun, sir. But yeah, this was an incredible performance by the Bulldogs, and I can't say enough about it.
Yeah, me neither, man. I'm really floored. I think that you and I kind of said in the week leading up to the game that the path to Georgia winning was, shut down an already limited Alabama running game and play a lot better on third downs than they did in the last game. And on offense, the loss of Drew Bobo is a big deal, but hopefully your running game can keep you on schedule and you can hit just enough big plays in the passing game and all of that. And the fact that they checked all those boxes and did it and just with flying colors, I mean, they not only did they limit the run game, they held them in negative yards. Not only did they stop them on third down, they held them to 3 of 14, 1 of 3 on fourth downs. I mean, it was really, in a lot of ways, especially on the defensive end, it's against a team that's that good. Alabama's a playoff caliber team. I'm not sure. I guess the jury is now out on whether or not they will make the playoff. I don't really feel like commenting on that and getting into playoff hypotheticals right now, but that is a really good team. And for Georgia to do that well in those key areas of the game that I think people knew that those were going to be the areas that swung it, you can't say enough about it, man. I mean, I've said this I think 3 times on this show tonight, but it really is as good as I've ever seen the Georgia Bulldogs play. You can't say enough about that win. Oh, you're muted.
Sorry about that. Yeah, I'm with you there. And they just tackled so well in this game.
Yeah.
And that's just what we're used to seeing with the Georgia football team. Like seeing the secondary tackle the way they did, whether it was Ellis Robinson or Rashawn Dinkins coming in this game, Ja'Cory Thomas. Why am I blanking on his name? Ja'Cory Thomas.
I think Thomas led them in tackles and he had a sack.
Ja'Cory Thomas made multiple big time plays in this game for sure. Like this is probably his best game I can remember. But yeah, it was just obviously Dalen Everett with the interception, but it was just the way these linebackers fly to the ball, like CJ Allen and Chris Cole. Like it's just, you can't say enough about Quintavious Johnson. I feel like this was one of his better games. Like how about Ty Simpson sliding for a 5-yard loss? Like, I mean, I feel like that's just something you do when you're just straight up scared of your opponent. Like Quintavious Johnson, Ty Simpson one-on-one. He said, "I'm gonna slide and lose 5. I'm gonna live to play the next down, literally." But yeah, man, it was just it was a lot of fun to watch the Georgia Bulldogs dominate the Alabama Crimson Tide for, I guess, I would have to say realistically the first time in my life.
Yeah.
Right? This is the first time I can remember Georgia dominating truly Alabama.
It's gotta be.
Although I think they beat them big in 2003. I just can't remember that game that well.
Yeah, me neither. But yeah.
I was old enough to be fair. I just for whatever reason I can't remember it.
Like Alabama is a team that it would give and I know you can't you clearly this game is example number 1 of why you can't fixate on history between a given 2 teams. But you know, as a Georgia fan and having watched all of those games in the past, I think a lot of Georgia fans couldn't fathom the idea of blowing out Alabama because almost every time those guys play, it's like game of the year material or whatever,
yeah.
or Bama smokes them 41-24. So for Georgia, like you and I, you know, we spent a lot of time talking about this game this week, and I don't think either of us ever entertained the possibility of Georgia having this kind of game, this kind of just dog walk performance. And it's not because either of us didn't think Georgia was good enough to do that. I think Georgia's good enough to beat anybody, especially right now with how they've been playing lately. But it's just like Alabama's a really good team that has, I guess, quote unquote, had their number historically. And again, this game is a premium example of why you just can't get hung up on stuff like that when it comes to talking about ball, you know?
Yeah, exactly. Because I mean, I will say, just like watching football with people throughout the season, like I've had that comment of like, we should dominate this team. Like we can dominate Alabama. Watching them play against Oklahoma, watching them play against Auburn, like we can dominate this team. But mentally, just with every Alabama game is gone, it's like I don't know. I thought we should dominate Jalen Milroe also. I definitely thought that in 2023. I had multiple thoughts of just we can dominate this team.
Right.
I don't want to rehash my Jalen Hurts take from 2017. I was too correct about because then they brought in Tua in the second half. But yeah, it's just like it's the way Georgia dominated this game. I think me and you. Like I almost wanted to, and I think Brooks Austin essentially did do that on the Feinbaum show because he picked Alabama and was like, me and you were kind of breaking down these teams. And I'm like, if I'm just looking at these teams on paper, Georgia's better. Alabama can't run the ball.
Right.
Georgia's got an elite run defense. Alabama's susceptible against the run. Georgia's been a pretty elite running offense, and Gunnar Stockton's been damn good all season. They've been inconsistent protecting Ty Simpson. It's like they're trending in the wrong direction. Georgia's trending in the right direction. It's like everything was pointing to something like this happening, but we're like, it's Georgia, Alabama. Yeah. I don't know. They'll probably play their best game versus Georgia, but we kind of saw these teams actually for what they've both been probably the last month of the season, and they played like it, and this was the result.
Right. Yeah. I for all the talk, I mean, I'm definitely someone who's contributed to this as well. I've definitely on numerous occasions been like, oh, Georgia, there's clearly some other mental element or whatever when Georgia plays Alabama, but I I don't know if there's a better way to prove that that's not true than to have a game like this. I mean, I really everybody on the whole team played great. Don't get me wrong. There are not many areas that we can nitpick and say Georgia didn't do well, but I think the number one takeaway from this game for me is what it says about Kirby Smart and the way that Kirby Smart leads is that his teams do not buy into stuff like that. They do not care about it. They just go out there and let their play do the talking. And if they lose the game, then so be it. But this is a team that can put losses in the rearview mirror and pillage on and not worry about outside noise and outside narratives and stuff that the likes of us might be creating, and yeah, for them to just blow out this Alabama team that had literally beaten them earlier in the year is big time stuff. They always say it's hard to beat the same team twice and whatnot. And I guess this game is a reason why.
Yeah, I think that's fair, sir. It was a whole lot of fun. Here, hold on one second. I'm trying to find a projected bracket right now. But who else? Just any other like specific people you want to shout out their performance in this game?
I thought that Ellis Robinson was just dominant from start to finish in this game. I mean, I think for every Georgia Bulldogs team, Alabama is the ultimate litmus test. And, we have seen Georgia's defense make big strides over the course of this year, especially I think from the fourth quarter of that Ole Miss game on. They clearly had turned a corner and grown. But the ultimate way, I think, to tell if Georgia has really grown the way that we think that they have is how well they do against Alabama. And for Georgia to just shut down Alabama like this, I think Ellis Robinson is a great microcosm of Georgia's whole defense overall, because you go back to mid-September when he was a first-time starter. He had a pretty rough game against Tennessee. He gave up some big plays, and it was a hard time for him. And since then, that guy has rounded into form with a capital F. He has been one of the best. I think Ellis Robinson has been one of the best players in the country over the past month or so. And for him to have the day he did today, I just thought he was so sticky in coverage. He was in the guy's hip on pretty much every single play that I noticed him get thrown at. And I thought that was a huge game from him. I think Ellis Robinson's progression throughout the year is like, yeah, it's like I think it's a microcosm of the defense overall, because all of those guys have really grown into form. Gabe Harris was huge today. Quintavious Johnson was setting edges like crazy today. DeMello, I guess, had the penalties and whatnot, but Alabama has probably
Chris Cole, another second-year guy.
Yeah, Alabama has as good of a trio of receivers as anybody in the country has right now, and there were not many huge plays made by those guys. I mean, Ryan Williams broke some tackles and had some first downs, but for the most part, they kept those guys in front of them. They kept them in their hip pocket the whole game, and God, it takes a village. I mean, they were getting pressure all night. They were shutting down the run game and forcing Alabama into passing situations in the first place. But, dude, Georgia's cornerbacks, I think, deserve so much credit for how well they've been playing, because that was a pretty derided group there for a while. They caught a lot of flack for having some rough moments in coverage earlier in the year. And right now, I think Georgia's boundary guys are playing as well as anybody in the country. Dinkins, man, true freshman, coming in playing star like that, having a really good game down. I mean, like, man, the mid-season, during the season growth that these guys have had is really something to behold, and I can't believe it. Cole Spear blocking that kick, like, man, so many guys just had huge performances in this one, and we could single out guys all day. That's just the kind of game that this was,
Yeah, it really was. Also, we should single out Brett Thorson because Alabama was starting deep the entire game, really.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, in a game like this, man, like, field position is always important. I guess sometimes when people are like, this is a field position game, I'm like, well, yeah, every game is. But yeah, especially this one where when you're playing a team that struggles to run the ball, it's already they're already going to be predisposed to just having a tougher time sustaining drives for that reason alone. So when a team like that has that big of a problem running the ball, them being in poor field position is almost a bigger deal than like the average running team, because it's easier to dig yourself out of a hole in terms of field position when you can rely on a running game to keep your third downs a manageable distance. But Alabama just has not been able to really do that this year. Their running game has struggled, and Jen Miller, their best running back, was out, and Josh Cuevas, one of the best blocking tight ends in the country, is out, and I believe they had a guard out too. His name is escaping me, but one of their better offensive linemen was out in this game. So all of that was working against them, and I think it made field position that much more vital for them. They were going to need to be in favorable field position situations if they wanted to have a chance to, go on drives and score touchdowns. And the Brett Thorson, the punter from down under, man, he was a huge part of denying them those kinds of opportunities.
Yeah, absolutely. Also, Sanjay watching live here, chiming in the live chat. Might be a hot take, but Kirby is already the second best coach in SEC history. That might be a hot take. I think some people might put Bear Bryant and Nick Saban top two, I think, probably.
Yeah. But dare we invoke the name of Steve Spurrier on here?
Yeah, I think 4 SEC championships is getting up there.
Really, I haven't thought about Smart, I guess, relative to every past SEC coach, but he's definitely, I think, the best coach in the SEC right now, and probably the country overall by a country mile. So you could argue it. I think you could definitely argue it.
Sure. Do you know Saban's championships he has off the top of your head? Is it 6, 7?
Oh, I don't know it off the top of my head. I mean, Nick Saban. Let's be diplomatic to the tide out here. Saban is the GOAT for sure. I mean, you don't have to ask a Georgia fan that. But I believe it's. Sorry. Yes, Smart has an argument, especially for I think. Smart doesn't really have anything left to prove, I don't think, because the guy has 2 natties, and when you've got 2 natties, you're stamped. You pretty much are. Yeah. But if you were to say that Kirby Smart still has something to prove, I guess it would be like he has to win a title in the quote unquote NIL era, where there's all this parity and the playoff is a billion teams and all that stuff. So if he's able to do that, whether it's this year or a few years down the line or whatever, if he adds a NIL era national title to his already back-to-back, arguably greatest defense in college football history, 2021, 2022, one of the most dominant teams ever, and then he gets another one in a completely different era of football that, I'm not holding this against any other coach that's ever coached, but, other coaches didn't have to coach in that era. That would be, to me, a very strong argument for for a top 3 coach in SEC history. I
For
don't
sure.
know. I don't know if I can say he's there already, but I do concur that he's probably well on his way at this point.
Yeah, and all of it depends on his legacy. Depends on how long he stays and how long Georgia stays at this level and everything. But yeah, if you could just duplicate what Kirby did in his first, this is the 10th year, the first 10 years at Georgia, and duplicate that to the next 20. Yeah, I think every Georgia fan will take that. Even if they don't win a championship this year, if it's 4 national championships in 20 years, I think we'll all be cool with that.
Dude,
Winning 90% of their games. But yeah, I mean, who knows if they can keep that level of consistency in the NIL era. But yeah, I mean, if you want to have a cutoff like SEC championship game era and on, like I think Spurrier won like 4 or 5 SEC titles, maybe 5, but only 1 national title. So I mean, Kirby is definitely on the way to surpass Spurrier. So in the modern era of SEC
head ball
coaches, like yeah, he can definitely, and obviously he had success in South Carolina too.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean Kirby. I imagine when we're looking up, I imagine we have at least 10 years of Kirby. I don't want to, who knows what could happen. Let's just enjoy the moment.
I don't want to jinx it more than anything.
Yeah, exactly. No. He can leave tomorrow. Let's just enjoy it every day, guys. But yeah, I mean, if Kirby stays, I think he's on his way to being, one of the greatest of all time. But Saban, off the top of my head, I think it's 6 championships at Bama and 1 at LSU. So I mean, 7 national championships. I'm not going to assume Kirby's ever going to get to that point, but wouldn't be bad to be the second best of all time.
No, absolutely not, man. Especially in the NIL era, where again, this is not. I am not taking anything away from Nick Evans Saban. That's the last thing that I mean to do. But in the NIL era and the playoff expansion era, and where the conferences are so just weird now, they make no geographical sense. There's just more variables working against you now as a given college football program than ever before. So I'm not going to say that like success in this era like means more or it should be like respected more, because football is just really hard no matter how you slice it. And anyone who is able to have a fraction of the success that like a Nick Saban or a Steve Spurrier or a Bear Bryant has, like there's a reason that they build statues of those guys. But I do think that if Smart is able to get a title in the NIL era, and even if he's not, but especially if he is, like that's a different kind of success. And I think it would really warrant all of the praise that you could really give him, man. Kirby Smart is an unreal coach. I mean, hot take, I know. At the end of the day, like you watch a game like this, you see a Georgia performance like this, a dominant win over the big bad Alabama team that they've had struggles against with Saban coaching them, and then they were 0-2 against the board. And for them to have a win like this, man, I think it speaks volumes about the way that this team is coached and the way that their coaches prepare them and the way that they get these guys to think. Like, yeah, man, I mean, whew,
you're either elite or you're not, sir.
You're either elite or you're not, man. That's it's very true.
Speaking of national championships, sir, this game, we're gonna talk about it. We're gonna close up here, sir. I think Georgia is gonna solidify themselves as the 2 seed. We're at halftime right now of what's Indiana, Ohio State. Ohio State's up 10-6 at halftime, and Duke is up 14-7.
Really, they are
at halftime. So I think you can basically guarantee Georgia gets the 2 seed, and the loser of. Honestly, I wouldn't hate if the loser of Ohio State, Indiana, got the 3 seed, just to avoid Indiana, Ohio State potentially getting matched up like in the semis. Again. Give the loser the 3 seed and then Texas Tech the 4. I think those 4 are like the guaranteed 4, just in a different order.
Yeah.
But do you think so? I guess it could be if the results hold the way they are right now, it might be Tulane and James Madison getting those 2
Yeah,
final
they would
spots.
both make it, right?
Yeah, they would both get in, and then the whole thing comes down to, do you think Alabama gets bumped out for this loss the
Oh,
way they
man,
did, 28-7? Like, and then you have the whole Notre Dame Miami conversation that's been a thing for so long. It's like, let's get rid of Alabama and we can just put Notre Dame and Miami both in there.
Yeah, it's tough, man. I mean, the thing about college football playoff, like, hypotheticals and speculation is that at the end of the day, like, this thing is really up to the opinions of a few people. Obviously, you can make cases all you want. You can look at records all you want, and a lot of things are set in stone. Obviously, I think we know who the 4 best teams are, but the thing about Bama, I mean, I think we said it earlier this week, is like Alabama is probably good either way to make the playoff as long as they don't get blown out by Georgia. Well, they did. So I think it does.
Yeah.
If you had a gun to my head right now and you were like, is Alabama going to make the playoff? Yes or no? I think I'd probably still say yes, because at the end of the day, they made their conference title game.
Yeah.
And other teams didn't.
And they were actually the top seed in the conference title game also.
Yeah. And I this is probably too cynical for me to like try to make it a real point, but they are a huge national brand. It's Alabama, and the playoff committee is controlled by Disney. So there's a bit of a made for TV element there. I don't mean to dress that up as like they just picked the best teams for the TV money. Like I'm not saying that, but I do think you have to factor that in a little bit. So overall, I still think they're going to make it, to be honest with you.
To that point, though, Miami is not a small brand.
No, not at all. Not at all. Notre Dame ain't either.
Yeah, and you kind of have the element of this, and I shouted John Tweet Sports because I was going back and forth with him on Twitter, and this was a point he made, and I was like, I disagreed with it, but it could be factual. The fact that those 4th and 5th conference champions are going to be Tulane and James Madison could have the powers that be like, we kind of need an ACC team in there, and we could justify it by bumping Alabama out, and then we get Notre Dame and Miami in there. I don't know. That could also happen. I personally love how the current seeds are set up, and you can make Miami the 10, and you can make Notre Dame the 10, whatever you want to do. Obviously, keep this bracket essentially exactly how it is based on everything that's happened, but just swap Georgia and Indiana. And I think this bracket, I'm just like, based on like rematches and certain things like that, I guess you have Alabama, Oklahoma would be a rematch, but I really like how this bracket looks. So like, I wouldn't even hate if they kept Alabama in it, but it's like, I would just hate some sort of scenario where Georgia ends up playing like the winner of Alabama versus Ole Miss or something. You're like, let's play different teams.
Yeah.
But
I kind of think the committee's going to want to avoid stuff like that. Like again, I don't want to get too caught up in like the TV, made for TV aspect of it all, but like, I think they're going to want to avoid like having the same games get played, right? I don't know.
That could be.
I think angling there. Maybe they won't, and they shouldn't. Obviously, they should not be seeding teams based on we don't want these teams to play again. If that's how the dice rolls and a team has to play another team when they've already played, so be it. Who cares, But
yeah,
I can't help but think that this is a committee. By the end of the day, it's controlled by the worldwide leader. It's controlled by Mickey Mouse. And at the end of the day,
we don't have to go that far.
There's a little bit of an element there. I don't want to be too cynical about that, because again, I don't think that dictates the playoff or anything. But
yeah,
you got to account for it a little bit, I think.
No, maybe. I think my cynical viewpoint is like, human beings like feeling pressure and like not wanting to get like hate on, you know what I mean? Like just not wanting backlash. And like the easy thing to do kind of feels like this Notre Dame Miami thing, two huge brands in their own right too, has just been a thing for so long now.
Mm-hmm.
And Alabama kind of just gave you the opportunity to be like, screw it, let's give them both in. And we can put Miami ahead of Notre Dame because they're both going to make it now. Although if you make Miami the 10, then you can set up potential Georgia, Miami, Carson Beck in the second round if you want some drama. But yeah, so I think gun to my head, I think based on this performance, I think Alabama's out of the playoff. I don't know what I think is right.
Yeah.
And I don't know, based on the precedent last year, they didn't reward anyone or punish anyone for losing the conference championship game like SMU. But I mean, if they're gonna do it to anyone, do it to Alabama. Like 2017 Auburn, you punish them for losing the conference championship. Yeah. Alabama didn't even play for it, sitting at home.
I mean, they lost by the exact same score, even.
Yeah,
I know it's also a 4-team playoff versus a 12-team.
Yeah.
But I think that overall point is definitely very valid. Yeah.
And you were putting Alabama in over a team who literally beat them. Like Auburn beat that Alabama team. They just had to play an extra game. But so yeah, I think it might be the easiest thing for human beings that are going to receive backlash to be like, yeah, we take in all the data points and Alabama's whatever played however down the stretch. He'll say something about how they didn't run the ball well because that's something this guy really cares about. I don't know. I hate when they start talking like, I don't care what your opinion of their style is. Like just talk about their resumes and quality wins and losses and stuff.
Yeah. And also, sorry, you go ahead.
But no, but that's basically all I was saying. Like, I just think it's easiest to be like, let's just put Miami and Notre Dame in.
Well, and because also I think another thing that is worth noting is Alabama's biggest, I guess their best win, their most impressive item on the resume is that they've beaten Georgia, and then Georgia just dog walked him in the SEC championship. Essentially, I mean, like they beat him, they beat the hell out of him pretty much. And I'm not sure how much that does to like negate the original win over Georgia because Alabama played a great game in that game. They looked awesome. You know, Simpson had by far the best game of his life, and you know, it's like they played so good in that game that people thought Ty Simpson was going to win the Heisman. Like that's pretty crazy. So I don't think that Georgia beating them today completely like negates that win or like invalidates it or whatever because like that was a good game that they played. But I think it does change the way that the committee might view it a little bit, and that's all speculation. You know, I don't know. I think the committee doesn't even know how the committee. So but like you know.
Yeah, I think avenging your one loss, like, kind of negates it. It's like that's the next best thing from undefeated season is a one-loss season where you beat the team you lost to. But I don't think losing to a team you previously beat necessarily negates it. Like Alabama still has that win on their resume, and I mean, for all intents and purposes, that's the best win in college football this year, right? Like that's the highest ranked team's only loss, you know. So that is like by definition the best win anyone has
until this Ohio State Indiana game ends.
Yes, I guess that's true.
Yes, I agree. I do agree. Yeah.
So I think at the end of the day, and last thing we'll say here, Sanjay chimed in again. I'd honestly rather have a home playoff game over a bye. See, I think everyone is overreacting to the 2024 playoff, where two of the teams that got byes were not even favored to win the games. Like, and then Georgia was playing with their backup quarterback, and the other team was playing Ohio State. Like, just I don't know. Last year was a weird year where the most talented team in college football lost 2 games and was like an 8 seed. But I think most years you're going to want that top 4 bye. And I think Georgia winning the SEC, getting the 2 seed for the second year in a row, that's right where they belong. And I think if it ends up, so I guess if my prediction is correct, I think it ends up Alabama gets knocked out. So I think just bump whoever. I guess it'd be we either get Notre Dame, Oklahoma to play Ohio State, or we get Miami, Oklahoma to play Ohio State, and we get Notre Dame A&M or Miami A&M. I think that's kind of what we're looking at if the committee just kind of keeps everything the way it is. And then would that be Oregon versus James Madison and Ole Miss versus Tulane? Ole Miss versus Tulane. That's a nice. Wait, did we already get that this year? Did they play this year?
If it wasn't this year, we got it very recently. Yeah, they played each other, right?
Ole Miss has definitely played.
That might have been when Ole Miss had Dart, but I don't, off the top of my head, I don't think I remember. But yeah, that has happened before, if I remember.
Yeah, they won 43-10 this year. Ooh. So I think they might have played a couple years in a row. So maybe the
committee can't just avoid all these rematches. Someone's gonna have to play someone that they've already played.
Yeah, maybe we can swap Oregon and Ole Miss so that I don't know. It doesn't matter. The Tulane, I don't think they're gonna care that much about Tulane Ole Miss rematch. But yeah, man, that's all I got for our instant reaction show. I'm about to tune into this second half of the Big Ten and ACC championship. Yeah, and see how the rest of this bracket unfolds. But yeah, anything else for you, sir?
Oh man, nothing else other than this is as good of a win as I think I've ever seen Georgia get. To win this conference 2 years in a row, 3 out of the last 4 is just a monumental achievement, and the growth of this team throughout the year and the way that these guys have continued to improve, I think should make every Georgia fan feel very good about the Bulldogs' playoff chances. This is an awesome win, and it's one that I think Georgia fans deserve the right to relish for a good while. But the playoff is coming, man, and it should be really exciting.
It definitely is, man. I'm excited. They're gonna announce the bracket tomorrow, I think at like noon, but we'll still be doing our show 7:00 Eastern on Monday. We'll talk about how it shakes out. Maybe we'll talk a little more about the signing day, what happened, Jared Curtis. I don't know if you want to get into it, but yeah, we'll talk about some things next week. Yeah, it was a busy week. Maybe those other I was on a Tennessee podcast this week, and you would have thought the SEC championship was the afterthought, and the National Signing Day was the most important story. No, when your season's still going on, SEC championship, most important thing. So we'll talk about some of those other things, who Georgia could potentially play in the playoff, how the rankings shake out, and everything. But yeah, so tune in, everybody. Oh, we got last thing. The classy man himself, Jackson Johnson.
Jackson Johnson.
What's up, Bulldog Nation? Congrats on the victory, gents.
Thank
Jackson
you.
Johnson, class act. Jackson, appreciate you tuning in live. But I appreciate everyone who's watched. Please like, share, subscribe to the channel. I have to refill my beverage here, sir, because there is nothing finer in the land than a drunk, obnoxious Georgia fan. So, SEC champion, sir. As always, go Dogs.
Go Dogs.
College football is even more exciting when you've got some action on the line, and the games are even better when you're cashing in. And the Voice of College Football is the place to be to get the greatest value. Start with my picks. 75% against the money line, 58% against the spread, and I've got a 40-plus year track record. 11-0 in the college football playoff for me last year against the money line, 8-3 against the spread. And I'm just the warm-up act. Steve Merrill of Wager Talk is our ace in the hole, show stopper. 7 years with the Voice of College Football, over 30 years in the industry. Steve gives us analysis on all the big games, but you can't miss Steve's weekly under-the-radar pick. 28-12 against the spread the last 3 years. You also get picks from some of our top analysts here at the Voice of College Football, including Corey Bratta, Matt Zemek, and Steve Dace. Check out those numbers. Become a YouTube or Patreon member for just $99 per month. Go to the main channel on YouTube, click join, and then select the betting tier. Do the same thing on Patreon. Make 2025 a winner now.